Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're reviewing one of my favorite movies of all time, The Matrix. As you can see, there's a Superman poster up, and that's awesome. So I don't have much else to say, but I guess we can get right into it. Go check out my Bond ranking that got posted. Eventually I'm going to review, leading up to, Matrix Resurrection. I'm reviewing the other three Matrix movies. One coming today on Tuesday or Wednesday, another one coming this Friday, another one coming sometime next week, and then I'm going to do Matrix Resurrection after winter break. So it's going to be nice. So let's get right into it. Think of what this movie's about. If you've seen the movie, you know what it's about, so I'm just going to move on to the next one. The Matrix is about this guy named Neo, who is a hacker trying to figure out who this Morpheus character is. And then eventually they meet up. And then there's this whole exploration around world building in this movie, and the whole Matrix as a whole is this virtual reality TV. I've never quite understood that, but it doesn't bother me at all. And then there's these Asian characters that are trying to find a way to get out of the Matrix, and they pretty much trying to take over. It's a little complicated, a little hard to explain, but I tried my best. Next up, we have The Good, and starting with The Good. Overall, this movie is just fantastic. There's so much world building in there, and that the second half is just as good as the whole world building first half. Like, there's pretty much an even split first half with all the world building, and then the second half. I do think it takes a little bit to get going, but you kind of need all that world building, and then it makes that second half better with the deja vu sequence into the sequence at that bank, which is absolutely fantastic, and the rooftop action sequence where there's dodging bullets, into the tunnel action sequence. All the action sequence stand out. It's a pop cultural movie. I don't know really how to describe that necessarily, but next up we have The Good, and starting with The Good. Overall, this movie is just fantastic. There's so much world building in there, and that the second half is just as good as the whole world building first half. Like, there's pretty much an even split first half with all the world building, and then the second half. I do think it takes a little bit to get going, but you kind of need all that world building, and then it makes that second half better with the deja vu sequence into the sequence at that bank, which is absolutely fantastic, and the rooftop action sequence where there's dodging bullets, into the tunnel action sequence. All the action sequence stand out. It's a pop cultural movie. I don't know really how to describe that necessarily, but this is one of those movies that really influenced so much, and the CGI it's a little dated today, but it was groundbreaking back in 1999, I'm assuming. And I bet this is one of the best movies in 1999, when there's a lot of great movies that came out that year. Also, some of the characters are also great. Like, I think Neo is a pretty good main character, and I think Keanu Reeves brings some nice levity to him. I think even the Trinity character is pretty good. Morpheus is a great character, played by Lawrence Fishburne. I think he's fantastic. And overall, I think the trio of characters and their dynamic really works for me. But also, I do think some of the other characters are sidelined, but that's okay, because you're here for some of the bigger characters in this movie, so you don't really care all that much. And I think as a whole, that all just works. And pretty much everything in this movie really works. I think Agent Smith, he's one of the most iconic movie villains. He's creepy, he talks pretty slowly. He reminds me a little bit of Hugo Drax from Moonraker a little bit. So overall, many great action sequences, great characters, a great story overall. Like, I think the story here with the whole Matrix idea is great. It has some ideas of humanity that are pretty interesting. And the whole thing about machinery taking over the Earth is a really neat concept, especially from 99, and as we move on to our era, where we're kind of letting machines do our own things. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but it's okay. And overall, many great characters, great action sequences, great story, great overall dynamic between the first half and second half. I think sometimes, like, in movies where, like, you have the sort of chosen one, like, a good example of this is Star Wars, where he's kind of meant to be that one, and you kind of see, like, a Neo's origin story sort of in this movie, and you kind of believe that he's the one, and then, like, by the end, you're like, yeah, do it. I used to have some problems with the ending, but now I actually kind of appreciate it. Hopefully the sequels do well, because I haven't seen them yet, and probably gonna watch Matrix Reloaded tonight. Matrix Revolution sometime, and then Matrix Resurrection. Too many R's. That's kind of a problem. Now you have the mixed stuff. The only thing I find, like, I'm kind of mixed on, I mentioned this earlier, it does take a little bit to get going, but that's okay because I think overall, you have the first half, which is just great in all this world building, explaining us to the world. Even there's some really interesting scenes, like the scene with the TV and the room, the white room, as well as some of the action sequences with like the kung fu, as well as the action sequence that opens the movie. And then you have the second half, which is action-packed, filled with some amazing sequences like the one at the security room and other ones as well. At the same time, it does take a little bit to get going, and it makes that first half kind of drag just a little bit, but it does pay off the second half nicely, so that's why I put in the mix. Second thing, I think overall, a lot of the characters, I think, other than the trio really are, and one of the other guys, are all pretty underutilized. I like how they all have some different values. It's not your usual set of sci-fi movie characters like in movies like Aliens, Predator, other movies as well. Those are the things that come to mind. So, overall, I'm kind of mixed on that as a whole. I have the bad. The one issue I have with the movie, this is the only real problem. It doesn't even bother me that much. It doesn't really even hurt the movie. It just, if I had to put something in the bad, this is the one thing. Overall, I'm not really bought into the relationship between Trinity and Neo. It's just one of those movie relationships that, like, this is not the first time I've mentioned this. Like, overall, you don't really see any romantic chemistry between the two of them. I mean, you sort of see it, but they don't develop it enough that it actually works. So it's a little odd. I don't really have many thoughts on it because it's just kind of a plotline that's kind of thrown out there, and it's not anyway your main focus, because you're in that scene, you're focused on him defeating those Asians. So, I don't buy into it. I don't buy into this. For this movie's final score, it's going to get a 9.9 out of 10. This is probably my top 15 movies of all time. For me, it's like a number 11 to 12. I kind of have a three-way tie with Inception, Matrix, and Rocky, but I think Rocky is probably the highest of the three, from 12, 11, and 10. You can also throw in The Dark Knight there, or Infinity War. Yeah. So overall, this is a fantastic movie. I bet this is a very pop cultural influencer. It's groundbreaking when it comes to all the special effects, and I've seen some behind-the-scenes special effects for this movie, and it's really cool. And overall, really enjoy this movie. It gets better for me in every rewatch, doesn't disappoint, and it gets a 5 stars for me. 10 stars, how about that? So thank you guys so much for watching. Tell me what you thought about this movie in this review in the comments below. And I'll see you guys next time. Adios.